All right, let's just dive right into this explainer and uncover the foundational legal missteps that can literally derail a promising startup before it even truly begins. We always hear that 90% of startups fail, right? And honestly, we tend to kind of romanticize those failures. We assume they happen because a product misses the market suddenly shifts, or a competitor just builds a better mousetrap. But more often than not, the absolute biggest threat to your revolutionary idea isn't external at all. It's hiding right there in the paperwork, or, well, in the total lack of it. Internal legal disputes kill companies in their infancy every single day. So today, we're going to expose these hidden vulnerabilities so you can protect your vision from day one.
To make sure we're getting the absolute best information, we're drawing our insights directly from the Duke Law Startup Ventures Clinic. This is an incredible team of student and supervising attorneys who are in the trenches every single day. They are entirely dedicated to helping seed and early-stage entrepreneurial ventures navigate the legal maze, secure their intellectual property, and most importantly, avoid outright disaster before they go out and raise significant outside capital.
Here's our roadmap for this analysis. We'll start with the startup legal minefield, move into skipping a founder's agreement, tackle misunderstanding technology transfer, look at accidental partnerships and entities, and then finally wrap up with securing your startup's future.
So kicking things off with Section 1, the startup legal minefield, and how to navigate those early risks right out of the gates.
Which brings us directly to Section 2, skipping a founder's agreement, or as it's better known, the handshake trap.
Picture this. You're sitting in a coffee shop with your college roommate or a really close colleague. You've just mapped out $1 billion idea on a napkin, and the energy is absolutely electric. And it usually begins right there, with this incredibly naive assumption, where founders just believe their friendship and shared excitement will be enough to govern a complex business. You tell yourselves, we trust each other. We don't need a founder's agreement. It sounds noble, doesn't it? As a founder, that shared vision feels like an unbreakable bond. But the harsh reality? The legal system does not run on good vibes, late-night brainstorming sessions, or verbal promises made over coffee. The second money and pressure enter the chat, those handshakes crumble.
It's a tale as old as time, and the pipeline to disaster is incredibly predictable. It starts in stage 1. Founders are happy, morale is super high, everyone's saying, our startup is great, and this is so fun. There's this honeymoon phase where you're just thrilled to be building something. But then we inevitably shift into stage 2. Two founders disagree. The reality of actually building a business sets in, the work gets hard, and roles start to blur. You've got one person thinking, wait, I thought I was CEO making the final calls, while the other shoots back, you're basically a janitor, I'm doing literally all the coding. Resentment builds up because those expectations were never formalized. And that brings us crashing into stage 3. Chaos ensues. Without a framework to resolve that disagreement, the business grinds to a total halt, ending in a messy, destructive, and seriously expensive lawsuit that ultimately drains whatever capital the company managed to raise.
To prevent this total chaos, the clinic outlines 4 absolutely critical benefits of a founder's agreement. Number 1, it enforces a firm commitment by documenting everyone's exact role and their corresponding incentives, like who is actually the CEO, who is the CTO, what are their daily responsibilities. Number 2, it sets clear goals. Remember, negotiation is just a form of communication. When you force yourselves to physically sit down and write these expectations out, it makes you verbalize unsaid assumptions and align your visions. Number 3, it dictates power and process. You've got to outline exactly how you vote on major decisions. If it's a 50-50 split, how in the world do you break a tie? When does capital actually get paid out? And finally, and honestly perhaps most importantly, it acts as your ultimate backup plan. Think about it. What happens if someone decides to just walk away after 6 months? Do they get to take half the company's equity with them, leaving you to do all the heavy lifting for the next 10 years? No way. A proper agreement locks in vesting schedules, non-competes, confidentiality clauses, and totally clear exit procedures so the company survives even if a founder departs.
Moving right along to Section 3, we're tackling misunderstanding technology transfer and answering the vital question, who owns what?
There's this massive misconception among early founders that if you just keep your intellectual property a secret, even from your own legal structures, it's somehow safer. But the real solution requires a very formal legal handoff. Your intellectual property simply can't live in your head, on your personal hard drive, or in a personal GitHub repository. To build a viable business, that technology must flow formally into a central hub, the company itself. The company, as its own distinct legal entity, has to own the IP. Why? Because when you finally go to raise money, venture capitalists are going to heavily scrutinize your chain of title. If the company doesn't cleanly own the core technology it's trying to monetize, absolutely no investor will touch it.
When you're categorizing the origins of your intellectual property, it is absolutely crucial to note the difference between where and how you built it. Student tech is rarely a massive problem. If you came up with a concept while taking a college course or just using standard university library resources, you generally have a pretty clear path to ownership, assuming you weren't utilizing massive university funding, of course. But bringing in employee tech from outside jobs, that carries some incredibly heavy legal baggage. Consider this a crucial warning. Many standard employment contracts have highly aggressive moonlighting or IP assignment clauses. That means if you're developing tech on nights and weekends while employed by another company, especially if you're using their laptop or working in the same industry, your current boss might literally own the side hustle you're building. You have to untangle and clear those rights completely before even attempting to transfer the tech into your new startup.
Let's pivot now to Section 4, Accidental Partnerships and Entities. We're moving from intellectual property into the actual legal shell of your business.
You have to realize the legal system is incredibly sensitive to the language you use out in the real world. When you're talking to potential investors, collaborators, or even just friends, casually tossing around the word partner can accidentally create a legally binding general partnership that you never even intended to form. Under the law, if you act like a partnership and refer to yourselves as partners, the courts might just decide you are one. And the consequences of that are pretty terrifying. It means you could suddenly be held personally liable for the debts or actions of the person you were just casually brainstorming with. If your quote-unquote partner signs a terrible vendor contract or makes a major mistake that gets the business sued, a general partnership means creditors can completely bypass the business and come directly after your personal bank accounts, your car, or even your house. So, to avoid that total nightmare scenario of personal liability, you have to actively choose to form a corporate entity. This requires formally filing specific articles of incorporation or bylaws with the state. By registering as a formal structure, like a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC, you are deliberately building protective walls around yourself. In the legal world, this is known as the corporate veil. It creates a firm, legal barrier separating your personal savings from the debts, obligations, and liabilities of the business. When you're evaluating your operational frictions and deciding which of those protective walls to build, honestly, there's no magic bullet. Every structure has specific downsides you've got to weigh. If you choose a C corporation, you're actively accepting double taxation, meaning the corporation is taxed on its profits and then the shareholders are taxed again on dividends. Plus, you're dealing with expensive yearly filings. But C Corps are generally the only structure venture capitalists will aggressively fund because of their highly predictable stock structures. S corporations avoid that double taxation, which is great, but they force you to have a single class of shares, demand U.S. residency for owners, and legally cap the number of shareholders, which makes them incredibly difficult to scale with outside funding. Finally, LLCs offer some fantastic operational and tax flexibility for small teams, but because they don't issue standard shares of stock, they make it significantly harder to incentivize outside investors or your key early employees with equity. You really have to review these trade-offs directly against your specific funding and growth goals.
All right, let's wrap this explainer up with Section 5, securing your startup's future, and connect all of these dense legal concepts back to the immediate actions you need to take as a founder.
I really want to leave you with this critical question to review against your own daily practices. Will your current handshake agreement actually survive the transition to a multi-million-dollar business? The casual trust of today absolutely will not protect the massive valuations and high stakes of tomorrow. Take a hard look at the foundation you're building right now. Have you sat down and literally written out your roles? Have you checked your current employment contract to ensure you actually own your code? Have you filed your articles of incorporation to build that wall around your personal assets? By aggressively addressing these legal vulnerabilities early on, you completely free yourself to do what you actually set out to do in the first place.